been joined by former Indian diplomat Ashok Sajanhar. He is currently the president of the Institute of Global Studies in New Delhi. Welcome to the broadcast, sir.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. And so now Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping held an informal meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. But even before any concrete change has come, there are already conflicting narratives emerging on both sides, Ambassador, on who initiated this meeting. With any other country, this might be frivolous to even speak about, but definitely that's not the case with India and China. So I want to ask you this. Do you think the relationship has become so sour that we are staring at a point of no return?
No, I don't think that we are staring at a point of no return. But responding to your first question, the relationship is definitely extremely tense and extremely stressed. I think it is quite clear from the fact that the last substantive discussion between the two leaders, you would recall, was in October 2019 when Xi Jinping had come to India, to Mamallapuram, for the second informal summit. After that, the only interaction between the two leaders has been on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali in November last year. There has been no other interaction. And of course, the forces, the armies of the two countries are literally staring at each other. I'll not say it's an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation, but they're staring at each other, and they are very perilously poised close to each other on the line of actual control. But discussions between the two sides have been going on at military commanders level. Recently, we had the 19th meeting of the military commanders at the diplomatic level also. And there has been a push to at least come to some semblance of normalcy. So, yes, relations are tense, but they are definitely not at a point of no return.
All right, picking on what you just said, Ambassador, New Delhi has refused to discuss any kind of diplomacy unless the situation at the border is resolved. So, if everything is dependent on that, I want to ask you, how do you see the situation at the LAC panning out from here?
Okay, I will not say that New Delhi has said that there will be no diplomacy till the situation on the LAC is resolved. Diplomacy is going on. As I mentioned, there have been meetings at the diplomatic, amongst the diplomats of the two sides, and they have been taking place for the last, since Galwan, since 2020. Our foreign ministers have met. You would recall that even in Johannesburg, our External Affairs Minister met Wang Yi. When Shingang, he was the foreign minister, he had come to India on two occasions for G20 and for SCO. Then also the two sides had met and interacted. So I will not say that diplomacy has come to a standstill. But coming to your question on the line of actual control, what we have been saying is that the bilateral relations cannot be normalized unless there is de-escalation and disengagement on the border, and we are able to come to the status quo ante that prevailed in April of 2020. So we have been able to disengage at about 5 points on the line of actual control. 2 more points still remain, Demchok and Depsang, and discussions are going on that. And I think we need to focus on this. As I said, after the last commander level talks, there has been greater energy that has been imparted. I think both sides are keen to have some sort of normalcy in relations between the two sides, because we are also looking at the G20 summit, at which we hope and expect that President Xi Jinping will be coming to India. Ananya.
Yeah, and that's exactly I wanted to speak to you about, Ambassador. The Chinese President Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are going to be in the same room again in exactly 2 weeks from now for the G20 summit. Are you seeing a bilateral meeting on the cards, sir?
I think the normal practice is to have bilateral meetings between the visiting dignitaries and the hosts in the country. Normally, now there are going to be 20 or let's say 19 other leaders who are going to be present of different
Yeah.
countries, including the European Union and, of course, international organizations, UN Secretary General. So I think time permitting, there should be a meeting. And China is too important a neighbor of India to take shelter behind, to take refuge behind the fact that, the scheduling did not permit. I think if Xi Jinping comes, then there should be a bilateral meeting between the two sides. And that would, in a manner of speaking, be a step towards thawing the ice that has existed. I think the message would have become loud and clear to China also that it cannot be business as usual till the time its forces are poised so menacingly at the line of actual control. I'm sure the message has gone to China, and looking at its own domestic situation, whether it is the economy has not been performing too well as far as China is concerned. So I'm sure it would be looking at seeing that there is some normalization on this sector in relations with India, rather than this unsettling situation to continue, this abnormal situation to continue. So I would imagine that there would be interest on both sides to have a meeting and at least to send out a message that both sides are interested in having a normal relation. What the contours of those normal relations are, that I think will take some time to emerge.
You make a very important point there. Economy, diplomacy, and of course the standoff at the border. A lot is riding on the dialogues that are expected, if not bilaterally, but some kind of dialogue that we are expecting from G20. We wait to see, of course, if that happens at all. But thank you for joining us on this broadcast, Ambassador, and getting us all those in-depth insights.
Thank you very much, Ananya. Always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir.